I have a really interesting story about media bias around coverage of police as possible perpetrators. Right before the holidays on December 23rd, there was a man wearing a windbreaker and sneakers who got into a verbal altercation with an on-duty uniformed female transit employee in New York, and it escalated into a physical assault. And according to the police, the man put the 28-year-old woman into a bear hug and slammed her to the ground, where he began choking her. Another employee rushed to her aid and the assailant fled. Okay. So the next day, the New York Daily News released a picture of the guy, at this point believed to just be some thug, and they ran some text with it. And the way they described it was: a hulking brute grabbed a 28-year-old MTA employee up in a bear hug at a Bronx train station, shoved her onto the platform, and began choking her in an unprovoked attack, then ran away smiling. Okay, that's the characterization before it was known that this guy was a police officer. Okay, turns out, indeed, this was an off-duty NYPD officer. And the New York Daily News, like almost every other media outlet in the country, as Addicting Info points out, has a different set of rules for how you talk about police violence than violence done by non-police. So the next day after, same picture, Lewis, except we have a very different characterization of what this is. It instead says, police officer Miryan Lolia, 37 years old, was suspended after the assault in which the MTA worker, who was on duty and in her uniform, was allegedly put into a bear hug, thrown to the floor, and choked. So, thug is gone, hulking brute is gone, unprovoked attack is gone, no mentions at all of the smile that the officer had as he walked away from the incident. And there's a lot of stuff written about this, Lewis, where if you analyze the language, not only can we tell that the second characterization is not as negative about the alleged perpetrator as the first, the language is much more distant, right? After the assault that took place, not after this man assaulted someone. It's all distancing the individual from the actions. And you see this a lot, actually, in reporting of police violence, where you say the individual suffered a gunshot wound, right? As opposed to, oh, the police officer shot his gun at this individual. The language always removes the police officer from the action.
It's interesting to talk about this. I mean, normally when we're talking about how these stories involving police are different, we talk about how police are treated differently in the legal system,
right,
and how they literally get away with murder. But yes, this is interesting and this is important. Luckily, you could read either one of these and still deduce that an off-duty police officer did something he shouldn't have.
One other example from the New York Times, which said about a confrontation where an unarmed black man in a darkened stairwell was shot by police. Quote, at the same time, a man and his girlfriend, frustrated by a long wait for an elevator, entered the 7th floor stairwell, 14 steps below. In darkness, a shot rang out from the officer's gun. A shot rang out from the officer's gun. The police officer is almost not even involved in that shooting. There was a shot and it rang out spontaneously, you would almost be led to believe. It just rang out from the officer's gun, not apparently at the direction of the officer. Just a shot rang out from a gun, Lewis. I mean, police aren't really even involved in that, are they?
And do you think this is because those publications want to avoid any legal trouble or want to stay on the good side of the police? So what's the reason for it?
I really don't know. It may be one of those things. It may just be that they see these incidents differently when it is a police officer, and they use language that in some way rationalizes the action. I don't know the exact explanation, but this is a very, very clear thing. Really good work here by Addicting Info in showing us the before and after. Just very interesting stuff. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/David Pakman Show, and give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/David Pakman Show.